Hi, everybody. This is Scott Veridell from Idea Grove and TrustSignals.com, and we're going to wait about a minute for any stragglers. I guess you're not really a straggler if you're a minute late, right? But we're probably not going to wait more than a minute for those of you who are on time. And this should only be about, well, sometimes I ramble, but probably not more than 15 minutes or so today. I hope everyone is having a great hump day. Never liked the term hump day. It seems vaguely inappropriate, but Pump Day is the day we've chosen to do these. They're on LinkedIn Live, also Facebook on our Idea Grove's Facebook page, my personal Facebook, as well as YouTube. So you can catch them any of those places. All right, I think I've stalled long enough. So today I'm going to be talking about a topic that I think maybe we don't talk about it directly a lot, but I think PR people and marketers have a lot of confusion between each other and amongst themselves about what is PR versus what is marketing. So I thought I'd talk about that a little bit because that's really a key point of my book, Trust Signals. It's called Trust Signals: Brand Building in a Post-Truth World. It's coming out a little later this year. And I thought one of the key things that I could do after being in this profession a long time to help move the profession forward is to maybe come up with a more useful definition of PR. Let me start by saying kind of what's out there now for definitions. I'm not picking on anybody, but the American Marketing Association defines marketing as the activity, set of institutions and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. I could probably cram and remember that for a marketing test, but I probably wouldn't remember it afterwards. The PRSA, the Public Relations Society of America, defines PR as a strategic communications process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics. Kind of the same thing. It's not like these things are wrong. And I realize it's hard to define big things like this, right? And so you're like, I need to include this and this and this. And suddenly your definition has like 27 commas in it. And it doesn't really get to the heart of things. But I'll tell you what's ultimately happened is that PR people think that PR is the equal of marketing as a strategic discipline and management function. Marketing people think PR is a tool in the marketer's toolkit. Two very different things in terms of importance, as well as in terms of kind of what the role is. I found this definition, slightly different definition of the difference between the two in a blog post on the Public Relations Society of America website. Marketing addresses consumers of a product or service. Public relations is the strategic function that addresses all of an organization's key constituencies. So customers, investors, employees, the general public, local communities, activists, you name it, and thinks about issues including the product, but beyond the product, like the company's values and other issues that may affect a purchasing decision, for example, besides just the bells and whistles of the product. So that's been kind of the PR conception of itself. But in practice, I can tell you as a PR agency owner for over 16 years that the great majority of CMOs and marketers, when they contact a PR agency, they want one thing. They want media coverage. They see PR as synonymous with publicity. And this is a very limiting definition that PR people have long railed against and resented, but not really come up with something better. I got to tell you, a strategic communications process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics is not better than, can you get me some media coverage? Because companies, clients, they want outcomes. They don't want you to say, oh, we build mutually beneficial relationships. No, they want to know what they're going to get. And so maybe what you should do as a PR firm, if you are asked for media coverage, rather than say, yeah, we'll jump how high, where do you want coverage? New York Times, no problem. You can say, wait a minute, you're a 4-person company. Your product is similar to other products in your space. Why do you want media coverage? Because it might take us a really, really long time to get you something, and then it might not generate any results for you. So what are you really looking for? What they'll generally say, and what marketers will generally say when they think about PR, what PR is meant to do, is we're looking for brand awareness. We're looking for brand visibility. That's not true. That's never true. Never what any client who comes to us actually wants from us. If all they wanted was brand awareness, today it's much easier and cheaper to buy little ads that follow all their target market all around the web, and everyone who you're targeting will know who you are. They'll hate you, but they'll know who you are. What people really come to PR firms for is third-party validation from the media outlets that you secure coverage in for them. They want that mantle of not awareness, brand trust. If this outlet, a key trade in my industry, a big tech trade, a big business publication, wrote a story about my company, then this company must have credibility. It must be authoritative in its space. It must be trustworthy. That's why people come to PR firms. The problem is that if we allow ourselves to be thought of, and I'm speaking as a PR person, as just doing this one little thing of media coverage, we're missing out on really helping that client achieve the goal they came to us for. So, marketing versus PR. Clients go to marketing firms because they want leads and they want they want to sell product. All right. Clients should come to PR firms, and we should be able to serve their needs because they want trust. My definition of PR is not a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics. My definition of PR is the art of securing trust at scale. In the same way that maybe a salesperson or someone with your company might one-on-one at a lunch or in a meeting get to know someone, build a relationship, secure trust with them as an initial phase before ultimately it leads to a sale or whatever outcome you're seeking is. That trust building layer, it has to come first. So from my standpoint, we do web design. Our approach to web design is just as much PR, by my definition of PR, securing trust at scale, as the way we do media relations. So as an example, what I mean by that. Typically, when we compete for web design work, we're competing against two kinds of agencies, right? We've got these web design firms over here that's their main thing, and they've done a lot of websites, and they're very technically proficient at the pyrotechnics and the bells and whistles and all those things. They can always show you the fanciest, most cutting edge stuff visually. Very impressive. Over here, we've got the lead gen firms, these kind of marketing firms that are all about, hey, we'll accelerate, we'll get you leads and we'll get you sales and so forth. They'll tell you, well, look, we know the science of lead generation through your website, and we know that this button should be green instead of red, and if it's green, they'll click on it and then a lead will fall out at the bottom. Those are the kind of web design firms that we compete with. What we tell our clients is that this doesn't matter and this doesn't matter if you haven't first secured trust with the visitors to your website. Trust is not secured by wowing them with pyrotechnics. If trust has not been secured, they're not going to push the green button or the red button. It's not going to happen. So your emphasis and your focus should be, do I know how to talk like my customer? Do I know what their priorities are? Even things like the navigation. When someone comes to your website, does it feel like they're walking into their home? Does it feel like they know their way around, that it's easy for them? Or does it feel like a maze where they get lost? This is about trust building. Whether or not these people ever become a customer, you have done the things necessary to establish brand trust with them in the same way that article in a publication might do. I mentioned in my last LinkedIn Live, one of our employees who's having a baby, yes, she got in Parents Magazine. She read a story in Parents Magazine that was an influence in her buying a crib mattress. But it wasn't only influence. There were also online reviews, influencers, trust badges, and other trust building features on the website itself. All of these together helped secure trust for Lori on our team in order to make that purchase of the crib mattress. So this is what we're talking about at Idea Grove when we talk about what PR is. And that might sound like things that others might define as marketing. But when you think about PR and marketing, I think a lot of people approach an integrated agency, and this includes PR people too, as PR, meaning media relations, and all this other grab bag of stuff they offer. And that's not the way to think about it. And if you approach it that way as a PR firm, why would anyone want a website from you? Why would anyone want any other services from you besides this one? If you haven't figured out how to infuse your values, your talents, your abilities, and specifically the ability and the knowledge and the expertise in building trust and in being the trust keepers for brands. If you haven't mastered that, then what are you? You're a media relations firm that does some marketing stuff. And marketers are right to call it that. However, if you can frame all of this within a framework that is driven by a PR orientation and ethos, then you've made the definition of PR much bigger. That's what we try to do at Idea Grove. And that's really why and that's what I talk about in Trust Signals. It's a book that's written for marketers. It's a book that's written for entrepreneurs. Anyone, I think, can get value out of it and apply the recommendations in the book. There's lots of practical recommendations. But another big objective for me in this book was to tell people in the PR profession that it's not okay to allow it to be painted in this corner and allow people to think of you as just doing media relations. And it's also not enough to just say, but we do more than media relations. Okay, that's not a very compelling comeback, okay? You need to have a clearer, positive, more all-encompassing way to describe who you are and what you do and why you do it best. And for us, and we would love this to be something that, and the reason I wrote the book is we'd love for other PR firms to adopt this approach of claiming trust, of being the keepers of trust for brands. Because without trust, nothing else matters. The marketing doesn't matter if you haven't built the trust first. So that's really all I wanted to talk about today. Are there any questions? Let's see. I'm not seeing any, but feel free to shoot me a DM or message me later. And I'm happy to talk more about this stuff. I can obviously talk about it all day, but I think I said this would be about 15 minutes, and I I was successful in that goal. If you want to read or learn more about this stuff, we've got a Trust Signals YouTube channel. We've got the blog, trustsignals.com, and we talk about a lot about how we utilize some of these ideas at my agency, Idea Grove, at the Idea Grove website. So thanks a lot, and we'll be trying this again next week. So I look forward to talking to you then.